Once again, back, it's the incredible Dale Valor's Inner Game Podcast. I'm rapper turned dating coach Dale Valor, your inner game wingman. Listen, here's the deal. If you're new to this podcast, what we're talking about is inner game. What is inner game? Inner game is the relationship that you have with you. If all the other relationships in your life are suffering, in large part, and usually it's due to the relationship that you have with you sucks, right? So if you don't like yourself, how can you expect anybody else to either? So here's the deal, man. We're going to go deep on so many inner game concepts in this podcast. I really am glad that you're here. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're a long timer, welcome back. And let's hop in. Yeah, I love that, man, because, and this isn't everybody's case, of course, but, the longer a relationship persists, I think that this is fairly common to where, we'll say like long, like maybe they got married and they've been married for a dozen years and dated 3 years previous to that, your identity can a lot of times become this homogenous, Bradgelina type of aesthetic, where it's like there's not a sense of self, there's only a sense of us, and you start losing friends because you're not hanging out as much, because you don't have time. Maybe you got a kid now too, on top of your job, on top of spending time with your wife, on top of other responsibilities that might be mounting, and so, you start seeing people less frequently. There's less time to, go do any of your own type of activities. You start sacrificing things that, you used to like to do when you were, didn't have as many responsibilities and things like that. But now, no time for that. You know what I mean? I gotta be at work at 8 a.m. And so I think a lot of guys, and I don't think this gets talked about enough, is where that sense of self and individuality, just gets gobbled up by the relationship. And that happens to women too. Don't get me wrong, for sure that happens as well. But I love that idea of you have an opportunity. Like, this isn't a thing where you got chopped off at the knees and you're just, like you said, lost in space. You have that opportunity to start building from the ground floor up as to the identity that you want to build for yourself, as opposed to it being handed to you. You know what I mean? I love that, man. So on the flip side of that same coin, what if, the girl breaks up with the guy, this girl breaks up with me, so, I've lost all the power here, and like I feel like garbage, and I got dumped, and am I good enough, or why aren't I good enough, or whatever the sticking point is. What would you tell that guy to start, like, start kind of getting back out there and feeling like, maybe I can start attracting other women into my life, or start dating somebody else, or whatever the case might be?
I think it's important for a person who has gone through an experience like that to really give themselves the time and space needed to process, meaning that they need to have taken enough time to regulate their emotions. So, like, encourage things that develop virtue as opposed to vice. Don't bury yourself in video games or alcohol or substances as a means of dealing with the unpleasant emotions that you're experiencing, the sadness, the loneliness, the heartbreak. It's gonna be there. It's part of the process, and pushing it down is only kicking the can down the road. It's just gonna show up later. At best it'll emerge like 7 months after the breakup, and you're grieving
it
at
will
a later
probably
time.
be worse. It will probably be much worse.
Or worse, it's going to emerge in your future relationship as some kind of unhealthy pattern that ends up sabotaging the relationship. So it's better to deal with it now and to grow from it than to let it dominate you. As men, I think it's important that we take responsibility. Like that's, it like no one's gonna tend to your garden, or if you're like
Yeah.
what is it, like was it a not a carpenter, but like a woodcutter or something. Nobody's gonna go chop your wood for you. You need to go do it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're struggling emotionally, you need to do what's necessary to get that in check. I'm not saying put it down, like don't stuff that stuff down. Again, you're kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that, if you need to feel the emotions, let yourself feel them, but also do the things that are going to help you to feel better. I tell my clients this all the time. It's just a really simple phrase. It's like, do things that feel good that are good for you.
I love it.
Just that,
Yeah.
yeah, that's simple. Just do things that are good, like that feel good, that are good for you. And as long as you continue to do that, you're sowing those seeds. Eventually, the plants that are going to emerge in your life are going to be the plants that bear the kind of fruit that you want to experience,
Yeah.
aka more happiness, more joy, a sense of peace, a sense of calm, confidence, self-belief, focus.
Yeah.
But that takes time. It takes practice.
Yep.
Kind of a
And
side note,
also
but I gotta ask you.
yeah, go for it.
Does, like, with your wife,
Uh-huh.
she hears you talking to clients, and I know as a coach, we say a lot of the same stuff kind of over and over and over again. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Does she ever hear you talking to her and like, wait a minute, that's what he told that guy about breaking up with?
Uh, uh, no,
Is he about to break
I
up with me right now?
no, thankfully I have gone through my fair share of relationships to the point where I know like how to switch roles. And
Yeah.
one thing that I rarely do is bring, coaching Chris, or, I do hypnotherapist Chris. Like she loves that, like if she's struggling to, sleep or something, or
Mhm.
she's having her womanly issues, then I just bring in the magic hypnosis to make everything better.
Yep. I can say that. That's the reason, like, it's one of the most valuable skills. Because,
Yeah.
like, if you can, like, there was a saying, I forgot, man. It's like really good saying. It was basically, like, change her mood, not her mind. That was like a really good thing, because especially women, because they're more emotional, right? If you try to argue with them logically, like the chances are it's not going to work out. But if you change her mood and then say what you want to say, chances are it will be like taken more positively, and then you can actually get the point across, as opposed to like
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise you
that's
just
just
got an
okay.
argument on your hands,
Yeah, yeah,
as
that
opposed to
exactly.
a discussion, if you will.
Yep.
Yeah. That's how you
Now, were
get.
you a breakup? Were you a breakup coach when you started going out with her, or did that come later?
It came later.
Okay.
I was already doing hypnotherapy.
Okay.
I
Got
was already a certified life coach, but um, it wasn't until it wasn't actually until after I came back from Mongolia the first time, after I proposed to her,
Okay.
that I decided I wanted to go down that route. And I mentioned some of it earlier, but really kind of like I've experienced some pretty horrific breakups. And at one point I was like, I really struggled personally. I think I was I had such a strong anxious attachment style that at one point I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And thankfully
Interesting.
it's,
Hmm.
yeah. And thankfully it's the most treatable of the bunch. And
Mhm.
it's, it can come from trauma, from a lot of like, childhood neglect, abandonment, abuse, and things of that nature, which unfortunately for me were some things that I experienced. But fortunately, it's also equipped me with some experience that allows me to really help people. But
Yeah.
the thing is those experiences really led me to be like, I want to help people, because breakups can be such a transformative experience. if you allow yourself to go through the motions and you don't resist it.
Yeah.
I was pretty much like dating somebody right before I started connecting with my wife, and when she did the like, I don't think we should talk anymore, and just cut me out, like ghosted me. It didn't even give me the option to really reconnect and stuff. So really painful. It's like one thing to be ghosted, after like one date. It's like, oh, that sucks. But when you're like dating somebody for a couple months and they just cut things off, like, oh gosh, like that's where you have those like self-worth questioning thoughts. Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, and then but if you do the work as a man, if you do the work to become more competent, it means like being better at dealing with your emotions, being better at dealing with relationships. Like, it makes such a significant difference. And like Shubham was saying earlier about the what was it, like, oh, women being more emotional. It's like, if you're able to be the rock that's like, in the rainy, stormy ocean, and you're just standing there solid, it doesn't mean you don't experience emotions. I was telling a client this past week. I said, you can still feel the sadness, you can still feel the loneliness, the heartache. It's how you choose to respond to that emotion that makes the difference.
Yeah.
And that to me,
ironically, the funniest part is that is the thing that has the highest chances of you getting back with your ex. Not that you should, but if you actually, let's say, like, assuming, because surprisingly that has happened to me like so many times. I think it's irony, but it actually works, because like, okay, girls who dropped me in school and college days, they tried to reconnect with me trying to date me now, like. And that's the irony of it, because like back then these were the same people. Like, I also had, like, like you said, some traumatic breakups where girls basically said, you don't look good enough, or like basically like reinforce insecurities, and they made me really conscious about it. Like, there was one girl who said, like, I'm unhealthy, and like I was overweight at the time. This is like school days, but yeah, I was overweight. So that was kind of why she dumped me. And that really stuck with me, because it was like I was insecure about the way I looked, everything. Later down the line, I really spent a lot of time in gym. Even now, I go to the gym every day. It's now a habit, so it is what it is. But that really made me, like, I lost a lot of weight, started looking much better. And literally, this is like what, 6, 7 years later, she literally was asking me out, and she was like, I'll, like, I'm really sorry. I was like, she basically said I was a bitch when I was a kid. I didn't know any better. Like, please, can we? I'm like, we can be friends, but that's about it. Sadly, it's just like, yeah. But that's the thing. It's ironic, but that's actually the thing. Like, you need to be the best version of yourself and keep going. That's the best possible scenario, and like, best response to like a horrible breakup is just take your time, relax, let the emotions go, like you said, and just like, I mean, this is what I did personally. I basically noted down everything I felt was, like, was like, in a sense, like, wrong with me, or like I wanted to improve, basically like an upgraded version of me. Basically, that's what I said. I gave myself like a 2-year deadline, and I was like, okay, this is going to be the best version of me 2 years down the line. This is how I'm going to do it. And I just started working at it. And when I started working at it, I just got over, like, because they just weren't the focus anymore. I was like, yes, I just want to be like, me. And it wasn't a copy per se. It was just a better version of me. So, the relatability factor was there. It's like, okay, it's just me who just went to the gym every day for 2 years. Like, okay, that's the fit guy. I'm the overweight guy. That was the only difference. But because it was, relatable, it, like, really stuck. Because I've seen this problem that sometimes you pick goals with, like, I mean, role models which are like too unrealistic. Or let's say, I want to be Bill Gates. Like, it's a bit unrealistic. I can be rich. That's 100% possible. Bill Gates level rich, a bit more unlikely. But that's the thing. When you set unattainable expectations and you don't reach it, it kind of hurts, right? You're like, okay, I didn't do that, sort of thing. But at the same time, if you put goals that are more attainable, and it's like just the best version of you, much more reasonable, and like you said, it shows progress, like actionable, relatable progress, and you can really, like use it to boost your confidence.
I can't even imagine you overweight. Honestly, like I can't even picture it.
I'll send you the photo later. Remind me to. It's like funny,
right,
but
yeah, because I can't even picture it. Like it's just outside of my imagination, I guess. But well said, nonetheless. So I find oftentimes that guys who get dumped, sometimes they come away with the mindset of, well, I guess I'm just not good enough. I'm a piece of garbage. I'm just, and maybe this has happened to this guy repeatedly, over the course of his life or whatever. Nobody will accept me and that kind of thing. And maybe there's validity in the reason that this girl broke up with him, for whatever reason, maybe he, I don't know, is lazy, or maybe he, just is too agreeable, or whatever the case might be. Okay. And there's actually validity to it. How does one, I guess, be as, what's the word I'm looking for here? Objective. How do they be as objective as possible in analyzing their past relationships to suggest, okay, you know what? She's actually probably right. And that is something that I should work on, as opposed to just being like, nope, she's, she dumped me. She's a bitch, whatever. You know what I mean? How does one take that objective standpoint and actually start making some, much like what Siobhan was saying here, like I went ahead, I did the work. I said, this is going to be the best version of me. And here's the connecting dots to get there. To me, that's taking an objective look and saying, that's something I got to work on. She's absolutely right. How does a guy who feels bad about themselves flip that role reversal to start actually working on themselves like that?
Well, I think the problem when it comes to people who get to, I'm just worthless. There's nothing good about me. And I used to be that person. And I think what it comes down to is a fixed mindset. You're seeing the world very much in black and white, and that's just simply not the way that reality functions. The way that we describe things really influences the way that we experience reality. And so, to give you an example of this, there's actually an effect where people who believe they have the idea that they're lucky actually are luckier than people who don't believe that they're lucky. And it's not because there's some strange metaphysical property going on. Maybe I don't know, but what we know for sure is because somebody believes that they're lucky. What are they looking for more than somebody who doesn't believe they're lucky? Opportunity.
Lucky opportunities. Yep.
Yeah. So they're open to it. And this is where the trait of humility can be so valuable, is it makes you teachable. It means that like you're open to, if you're like X person who broke up with you is, you've been such a loser, like, you don't do anything. It's like you just sit on the couch and you play video games all day, and I'm sick of it. Maybe despite all of your flaws and shortcomings, you seem to have a couple skill points in the humility trait, and you're doing pretty good with that. So you look at yourself and you wonder, you know what? Yeah, like why is that? Like why am I just playing games? And as you examine yourself, you start to realize, like, I've been struggling with depression. Why have I been feeling depressed? And it's like, oh, because I didn't forgive myself for this thing that happened to me when I was a kid. And it's just like I keep pushing it down, and sometimes I get better and sometimes not. And so usually when it comes to these things, there's a deeper problem. And I'm not, I'm broken, I'm messed up is just a way of like putting a Band-Aid on it. So I'd suggest dealing with the deepest issue. But you can look at like that fixed belief versus like a growth mindset where you're making it's progress over perfection. You know,
Yeah.
it's like a gradient instead of like black and white on and off. And if you start to see the world in that way, things will change. You know, and that can be hard because at first, if you really believe like, you know, I'm worthless, I'm good for nothing, then guess what? It's probably going to be a bit difficult at first as you're, you know, going to the gym and you come back the first day or like the first week you're super sore. Like I'm such a
Yeah.
loser. You know, why am I not?
Yeah.
It's like, well, of course you're new with this. You have, you're
Yeah. You
learning.
haven't gone over.
And,
Yep, exactly.
and the
Okay.
beauty with this is that in getting better, like you will transform your life, absolutely transform your life by getting rid of that mindset. And that's what I mean. Breakups can be so transformative because then
Exactly.
you'll start to
Exactly.
realize, like, wait a second, I can grow in this area, in that area, in that area. And the next
It's
thing you
like
know is like, yeah,
it's
go
like
for it.
breakups basically put a like a full flashlight on all your insecurities, which is
Hmm.
actually a good thing because sometimes they just get thrown on the back burner. And like it's sometimes good to take a look at it and see what you can improve to be a better person. And that's what I said, like be the best version of yourself. That's the final goal of like I think that's personally my thing. Like I just want to be the best version of myself. I don't want to copy someone else. I just want to be me, but like the best possible version of it. So like
Hmm.
there's just no competition sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Agreed.
one of the things that the guys that I coach and things like that, I'm really big on, I believe that a man should have purpose. Why were you put here on planet Earth? And for most guys, they don't really have a sense of purpose. They have it, they just haven't realized it, don't know it exists, or whatever the case might be. But uh, a lot of times, when guys are in a relationship, and I'm suggesting to them, like, look, man, you got to find a sense of purpose, man. There's so much more to life than, get up, go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, and every day
Rinse
looks the
repeat.
same.
Yep.
Now, when they're in a relationship, it's easier, I think, when somebody is single, right? Because they don't have anybody's expectations or anybody's opinions to consider, that they're in a relationship. But when somebody has a revelation that's a life-changing thing and they have a partner, whether they're married or girlfriend, whatever, that person is used to the way that you are because you've established this track record of being how you operate, but now
Hmm.
you're operating differently. And so now they don't know necessarily how to engage with that. And you know what? And the funny thing is that maybe even they were the ones that were the catalyst or the suggesting point of I need to find purpose. I need to be a little bit more assertive in my own life. I need to get out here and do bigger and better things that I'm capable of. They might have been the voice that even suggested that to them, but as they're making these changes, that person doesn't know how to interact, and now it becomes a case of the devil you know is better than the devil you don't, and
Hmm.
so how would you advise somebody who's like, listen, I had an epiphany and I'm going to make these changes in my life and I'm going to have my purpose now supersedes, not to say it supersedes her, but this is the thing that's the most important part of my life because I'm me. um
Yeah.
and she feels like that she's taking a back seat now to whatever that purpose may be. How would you advise somebody to not necessarily break up with them, but communicate that it may lead to a breakup, but how would you communicate that in a way that's efficient, clear, concise?
I think again, it comes down to skillful communication. I really like the phrase "speak the truth in love," and you know, again, it's just like being competent with the way that you're delivering the truth so that you're not beating them over the head with a blunt object. And you say like, look, things have changed. Like you really encouraged me to take some time to self-reflect and to find something that really matters to me, and I have. And I understand that it can be a bit unsettling because I'm, you know, I've been changing my priorities and stuff. And I want you to know you matter to me still. This relationship matters. It's important to me. And this is also important to me. I want to get good at it. I want to do well, or I want to, you know, eventually go to this place and stuff. And I would love to have you along in the journey. Like that's what I would like to see. And just let it, you know, let it be, let it hear what they have to say. But um, I really like the Buddhist concept of impermanence. You know, the idea that reality is constantly changing, and we have to understand that sometimes things just shift. You know, our purpose changes, relationships gradually fall apart and stuff, and it's like you're not always going to be in coherence with the person that you're dating. And if you get in a dissonant state where you start drifting apart, the better you're at accepting that and recognizing that, you know, change is just a fundamental part of reality, the quicker you're going to be able to recover from, you know, a breakup or detachment or divorce or whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I hope that do you feel
Yeah.
like that was
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. 100%. You know, I always tell my guys, man, you know, like you want to, if you're partnered up with somebody, you want that person to be an asset, not a liability. You know, if you're going up a
Exactly.
Yeah,
mountain, it's a whole lot easier if somebody's walking with you and you're helping each other out as opposed to she's on your back and you're trudging up the hill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a
yeah,
night and day
yeah, yeah,
difference, you know?
Mhm.
So if your purpose, you know, shifts to something else and she's just not with it, it kind of is what it is, you know, like
Yeah.
yeah,
your purpose, that's your purpose. Your relationship isn't your purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your relationship is your relationship that should be based in your purpose, you know?
yeah.
That's my belief anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So it's a great biblical analogy of it's the idea of like, you know, you should be equally yoked with your partner, and
right.
the
Yeah.
yoke of an oxen, you know,
Mhm.
two oxen that are moving in the same direction and they're carrying the plow and stuff. And you know, if you have the same vision, if you're
Yeah.
relatively aligned, not everything's going to be, it's not like you're not like the Hormozis or something. You know, sometimes you get that, but
Yeah.
but you know yeah, you check out Alex Hormozy if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Alex and Layla Hormozy. So, but you know, the point is like you're gonna have like this level of coherence that allows you to like the relationship should make life easier.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
if you're having a hard time, maybe they're doing well and they're able to help you up, and vice versa. Maybe you're both struggling, maybe you're both in the trenches, and but you're encouraging each other. Keep going. We can make it through this. We can push forward.
You know, that
That's what you want.
analogy, the biblical analogy of being equally yoked. You know, the thing is that a lot of times people take that as like you should be in lockstep 100%, and that, like you said, man, that's just like that's not realistic. You know, you have
Mhm.
two oxen that are yoked together. Those two oxen may have different opinions on things. This one likes to eat hay at night and this one likes to eat hay in the morning, you know. but
Yeah.
but when push comes to shove, they're getting the work done at the same time,
Yeah.
doing the same, you know, helping each other, right? So, you know, I guess I'm just saying that to say this is that, you know, when it comes to relationships and things like that, yes, you know, you should have criteria, and there should be certainly, you know, your ethics are the same, and you know, your life goals should be pretty aligned, and things like that. And you should
Mhm.
have, you know, red flag or deal breakers, if you will, you know, and things like that. You should have all of that, but that doesn't mean that you're signing up to get a Stepford wife, or that you're, you know, having somebody who just, you know, is a yes woman, if you will. You know what I mean? Like she should have her own set of, you know, attributes and characteristics and things like that. Because, like, look, you know, I don't want to date me, you know, in the sense of, like, I don't want to date
Carbon copy. Yeah.
because what do I need you for? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I've already got everything I need. I don't need two of it. You know what I mean? I need things that I lack in. You know, I don't know if I told you this, Chris. You know, I've been married 22 years, man. And
Oh, wow.
the biggest, and this almost sounds dismissive, but it's not. The biggest attribute that my wife brings to the table is she stays out of my way. You know, in the sense of, if I need to travel to go somewhere, I could go tomorrow. You know what I mean? If I got a boot camp in LA next week, I don't, you know, she's not going to give me flack about it. You know what I mean? If I got to jump on a coaching call, if I got X, Y, or Z to do, she's never in my way in trying to, like, whoa, you know, like, you didn't spend enough time with me, or can we just do this instead? Or, you know, things like that. She doesn't want to be involved in my coaching. She doesn't really, you know, outside of like really big, cool stuff, she doesn't really care to hear about, like, hey, I was talking to this guy today and we were talking about his issue with whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you don't really care, you know what I mean? And that makes for a good landing place for me, because I don't have to just regurgitate a bunch of stuff that I've already said 3 times that day, you know? So, so yeah, you know, like that equally yoked thing, it's like, it's the same but different, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. It's there's a great thing I heard yesterday, and it's like a relationship is not 50-50, it's 100-100. And your 100 might be 70% of what you're capable of that day. But it's like, as long as you're giving your absolute best at any given time, then it builds a very trusting relationship. And that's where you find that, like, at least in some sense, the equally yokedness, and of course, you know, core values and things of that nature. But, you know, hopefully you're not just jumping into a relationship with somebody that has fundamental differences with you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
If you are, change that.
that would be problematic.
Yeah. That's like, you know, like straight up heading into a wall and, you know, like being surprised why you got hit. Like, you just saw the red flag.
It's like watching somebody fall and you're like,
Yeah.
Well, Chris, man, thanks again for coming on, bro. You know, what's the best way that people can reach out to you if they're, you know, thinking about breaking up with somebody, or they just got broken up with themselves, or, you know, they've been struggling with a breakup that happened 3 years ago, or whatever the case might be, and they're like, yo, this guy knows what he's talking about. I need to talk to Chris Goode, man. What's the best way that people can get at you?
yeah, absolutely. So pretty much all my social media everywhere is I am Chris Goode, and that's Goode. And my website is www.iamchrisgoode.com. So, you know, Instagram, YouTube, wherever, check me out. I've got like plenty of free resources available for those of you who are struggling. If you're just like, I don't know if I got the money to invest, don't worry about it. Look, you know, just work with what you got, work with what you're capable of. And if you do need that extra level of help and you want to work with me one-on-one, we can book a free clarity call. The links are on my website and in my social media, and can see how advanced conversational hypnosis can rapidly help you to recover from your breakup.
Yo, oh, side note, real quick. I'm actually talking to Beatrice today about the conversational hypnosis stuff. You know what I mean?
Cool.
So, yeah, so I'm gonna be.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be talking to her about that too. So, and hey, look, Beatrice is dope. Had her on. How long ago was that, Siobhan? A couple months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so if you guys are interested, and we go deep on the conversational hypnosis, you know, it's right here on the YouTube channel and everything. So,
oh, cool. All right.
But yeah, that's what's up, Chris. We'll link all your socials and the website and all that kind of thing in the description. So if you guys want to get at him, Boom. You don't even have to remember IamChrisGoode.com because the link is right there. So, well, Chris, again, thank you, man. Definitely appreciate you. And, you know, I'm excited to see what you got coming up in the future, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Thanks, Siobhan. Appreciate you both. And it was a pleasure being on.
Well, man, I know that you got a lot of information out of this particular episode. Listen, if you need to go a little bit deeper, always feel free to reach out to me. Look, there's a few ways you can do that. You can shoot me an email. You can send me a DM. I'm easy to find. But the best place that you can find me is at freegiftfromdale.com. It's in the description of the episode. And you're going to get a couple of free gifts there. You'll get the first chapter of my book, Inner Game. And you will also find an exercise to help you find out about yourself and who you really, truly are at the core. Okay. And listen, if you haven't subscribed to the channel or the podcast, make sure you do so, man. It takes you 1 second to do it. It means the world to us here. Okay. If you know somebody who could really use this information, feel free to share it, man. Don't hold it to yourself. You know what I mean? So we will see you in the next one.